Even Abby noted. Oh, I hit the bottom one. What are you doing, Dave?
So Logan's gonna text me between meetings. Okay, well, everyone but Bridget is ready. Okay, Bridget's ready, so we can get started. Okay, good evening. The hour being 7:28 PM on Monday, September 26th. I'd like to call to order the Village of Brookfield Committee of the Whole meeting. Bridget, can we have a roll call for the committee meeting?
Trustee Ketchmark?
Here.
Trustee Cote?
Here.
Trustee Hendricks?
Here.
Trustee Conroy?
Here.
Trustee Leclerc?
Here.
Trustee Kaluzny?
Here.
President Garvey.
Here. Thank you, Bridget. We just have one item under regular business. We have Derek Treichel from Hancock Engineering to, we had a committee memo on this regarding Burlington and DuBois Boulevard. He's going to give us an update. Derek?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. So as many of you know, we've been working on the Burlington Avenue Improvements Project over the last year and a half or two. We're working currently on the Phase 1 Project Development Report, and we're about ready to take the next step, would be to enter into a design engineering agreement and begin design engineering. So we asked to come before the board and give a little update on the project to the village board. Are you guys clicking for me? Thank you. So this is a location map, and highlighted in yellow is the route of the project. I'm going to start down at the bottom left at Ogden Avenue and DuBois. The project runs from DuBois and Ogden north up to Burlington and DuBois, and then it heads east all the way across Maple. We're going to have a omission or a gap at Maple. We will not resurface across Maple as part of the project. Continues east across Prairie Avenue and extends east all the way to Grove and actually all the way to Salt Creek, where we'll have a new storm sewer outlet. So a little background. This has been a project long in the making. Began with some planning about 8 years ago when Burlington Avenue at the time was not classified as a collector route. As you know, when we are able to have a route classified as a collector route, it becomes eligible for federal funding, and construction engineering are eligible for an 80% federal share of the costs. So back in 2016, we identified Burlington and DuBois as having the characteristics that typically IDOT would classify as a collector route, and we applied in 2016. In 2017, we received approval as a collector route. In 2020, the Central Council of Mayors, which works through the WCMC, and they're our transportation council, put out a call for projects, and this is one of the projects we applied for, is improvements to Burlington and DuBois. And later in 2020, they announced funding of $2.25 million for construction and construction engineering in 2024. We're currently, as I mentioned, we began work, I believe, in 2020 on a Phase 1 project development report. We've been through a couple of reviews with IDOT now and are still addressing some remaining few questions, but the scope of the work has been agreed to, and the next step is to enter or begin Phase 2, what they call Phase 2, or design engineering. We intend to work on that the rest of this year and complete it in 2023, all targeting a construction project that'll start in April of 24 and be substantially completed in November of 2024. This is our current estimate of costs. Currently, our estimate for the construction and construction engineering is $5.45 million. Looking at the funding, as I mentioned, they funded it at $2.25 million. Question would be, why so low? The Central Council of Mayors only gets about $3 million. This is just a very large project for them, so they funded it at the level that they felt was as high as they could go. Based on that, amount of funding, the village share would be 3.2 million. However, as we saw with the Shields and the Washington Avenue improvements, we do have the opportunity to apply for contingency funds. We've spoke with the WCMC liaison. He understands we're going to apply for contingency funds. If we're able to get that, that would be an additional 2.1 million in federal funding, and the resulting village share would then be 1.1 million towards this project. Quick description of the scope of work. So all of the sections include some of our basic roadway improvements, scope of work that most of you are familiar with, but handicap ramps at the sidewalk intersections, either full or spot curb. I went over some of the larger scope of work items by section. So Burlington and DuBois, let me read this. Who wrote this? So DuBois Boulevard from Burlington up to DuBois from Ogden to Burlington. Good Lord. We're going to reconstruct that pavement. So it's the existing concrete pavement, has enough areas of patching that we want to reconstruct it. There's going to be 6 inches of widening on each side to meet the federally required lane widths. And pointing out no work at the Ogden intersection. We intend to stop just short of that intersection because, as we know in the planning, we are going to redo Ogden down the road, so we don't want to get into it with this year's project, or this project. Get the next one, George? Okay. Come on, did you guys change the PowerPoint or something? Go to the next one, please. Thank you. So Burlington Avenue from DuBois to Maple, that was improved in roughly 2005. So there are no improvements other than resurfacing the pavement. We will do spot curb along there. And again, the ADA ramps as needed, any spot sewer repairs as needed. Burlington from Maple to Prairie, that's the original concrete pavement. It's at the narrow 22-foot width. So we are looking at reconstructing the pavement. We would have 8.5 foot of widening on, mainly being done on the south side. And we also, IDOT required a storm sewer for this section because of the limited capacity of the combined sewer in this area. So there'll be a new storm sewer from Elm to Prairie on this section. On the next section from Burlington, Prairie to Grove, that's actually not classified as a collector route, but in order to extend the storm sewer all the way to Salt Creek, we'll be installing the new storm sewer across Prairie, down the next 2 blocks to Grove, and it actually runs through Creekside Park to a new storm sewer outlet. And we're proposing right now for the restoration, rather than patching the pavement, we're going to resurface the pavement on those 2 blocks. Wanted to go over a few design elements. One of them is we're going to eliminate the island at Burlington and DuBois that's out there now. I have a detail that we can flash to in a minute here. There is also a brick paver plaza area at the Congress Park Station. We've worked with Hitchcock Design Group on that. I have another detail for the Southview Avenue intersection realignment. So as you guys know, that comes in at a skewed angle. For a collector route, that doesn't meet the standards. And then I've mentioned that we do have a storm sewer with an outlet through Creekside Park. So this is a highlight of the intersection of Burlington and DuBois. It shows you so just to reorientate everybody, to the bottom of the drawing is DuBois Boulevard coming up from the south, and then to the right of the drawing is Burlington Avenue as it curves to the east. You can see we took out the island, as I mentioned. You can see the existing parking lot off to the left. That'll tie into our new roadway pavement. And then what we have up on the north, you can see a concept plan for a brick paver area, and there's some seating. I want to be clear, this is at a phase 1 plan, phase 1 report, or a concept level. We'll have time for comment and public input and board input on this area, but I wanted to give you an idea of what's been discussed and contemplated to this point. During design engineering, we'll put out very detailed drawings about what goes on here. And I imagine meeting with staff and also coming before the board to do a final, before we go into a final design. Get to the next one, please. I wanted to share this with you. So at the same time, BNSF has also hired a engineer, and we know we have the green retaining wall out there that's a bit of an eyesore, and they are planning on doing some improvements next year. So we're coordinating with them with their retaining wall improvements. If you look at the tunnel and you look off to the left, that wing wall currently exists. They're proposing to do a similar wing wall off to the east side, and then they're going to go ahead and just put a grass slope running down from the top of the slope to our brick plaza area. Again, they're submitting to staff 30% design plans. None of this is fleshed out. Village gets an opportunity to comment all of this, and we have a meeting in early October with them to further discuss the design. But I wanted to give you an idea of what it'll look like, and again, they'll likely build the wing walls first, and then we'll come in a year later with our brick plaza improvements and build around their wing wall. Okay. Okay, this is a detail just to give you an idea. Unfortunately, the best route and almost the only route for us to extend this storm sewers, we need to go through Creekside Park. If you're familiar with the park, you can see it vaguely, but there's a circular brick paver area with a seating wall that's about 30 inches high. We're gonna try to avoid that as we go through. There is a slide on the south of that sewer that we'll have to take down, but it'll be restored to its original condition. I do want to mention that we'll have to close that park for approximately 2 to 3 months in 2024 to allow the sewer to be installed, restoration, and then that slide to be reinstalled. One of the other things that we are tasked with looking at is currently we have a temporary commuter parking lot at the southwest corner of Burlington and DuBois. Property's been under discussion for development for quite a few years. So we want to see what we could do to mitigate any parking loss when that property is eventually developed. There's 58 spots currently existing in that lot. There's another 26 commuter spots that exist on the north side of Burlington Avenue. Extends from the tunnel. It stops roughly halfway between Madison and Raymond. I will mention we did look at some angled parking there to really maximize the parking on the north side. Unfortunately, with the collector routes, one of the requirements is that you have a backup lane. It's similar to what if you drive out on Brookfield Avenue, you may not notice it, but with a heavier trafficked route, you don't want to just have cars backing into a through lane. We were not able to get a variance with them. The only option we'd have is we had to go significantly on the BNSF property to get the angled parking, and BNSF did not look like they were gonna allow us to get onto their property that much. As you know, it's about 3 or 4 foot higher than roadway. It would include a lot of additional costs. I don't think they'd even let us build as close to the tracks as we would need to be. So we regrouped with staff, tried to come up with something else. And what we came up under the proposed column, with the new Congress Park parking lot, we have 21 spots there. And I mentioned that the existing parking, commuter parking on the north side only extends to an area between Madison and Raymond. We're proposing to extend the commuter parking all the way down to where the north side parking ends at Maple. And we get an additional 64 spots. That added with the Congress Park parking lot, we'd have a total of 85 spots, which is one more than exists out there now. Next steps, with all of these federally funded projects, and quite frankly, there's some widening that needs to be discussed, and we need to allow some public input. So we do have a public informational meeting scheduled for this Wednesday here in the courtroom. We'll be meeting from 5 to 7 o'clock. We'll explain the project to them. It's an open house forum. We'll accept written comments at that meeting. We also accept written comments for the following 30 days. I believe we have this noticed on the website. We've delivered a mailing to all of the properties that abut the project, to the schools in town, and to some of the local churches that may want to comment on this. Again, we'll accept comments for the following 30 days, regroup with staff to see if there's any impact to the Phase 1 report that we want to address on those comments. And the next step would be to begin design engineering. Again, I mentioned at the start that right now we're scheduled for a January 2024 IDOT letting. Typically, that means construction would start in April, and we think we would be substantially complete by the end of the year in 2024. At this point, I'd open it up to any questions or comments.
The board members have any questions or comments?
Derek, did you have something on the reconfiguration of Southview and Burlington? Or no?
Well,
I mean, is it more like, a turn into it?
I'm not sure what I sent. On the one I have there, George, can you flip through again? This is odd that it's not the, keep going back. No, apparently I don't, and I apologize. We will have an exhibit at the meeting. I can also follow up with an email to staff. No.
Is it similar to what we did over on, like Gulf and First, or what was done over on Gulf and First, where it used to be kind of, you just swerve off, where now it's like almost a turn?
Yes,
Off to it.
and just a description, because I know you're all familiar with Southview. It runs due west, and it kind of comes in at a skewed angle, and the only reason it functions acceptably well is it's not a high volume collector route. It's a lower volume, so we don't have a lot of vehicle conflicts. If you picture Southview coming west, we have to bend it and come up at close to a 90-degree angle into Burlington. One of the big impacts is it'll, the parkways for the properties on the two properties on the south side of Southview, just east of Elm, will have a larger parkway now. So, and we have exhibits for that. I don't think that's a negative. We're not taking away any of their property. It actually makes them.
So the
a
large
larger
parkway on the north side, that triangular area, that's our property.
That's
Right.
right.
Other questions or comments from the board?
With the widening, are we expecting to lose many trees?
We are not. Most of the trees are set back far enough that we don't expect to lose the trees.
That's great.
And obviously, we're kind of, well, they'll be here before we know it in terms of starting the project. The closure of the park, let's make sure we, use the regular village channels, but obviously posting a sign out there, maybe giving, there's a lot of, that's foot traffic park, a lot of local families just go there, maybe give a warning so they make other plans that it's going to be closed for an extended period of time. And I know we always communicate with all the property owners, but, the businesses along that stretch, at Prairie and Burlington, obviously there's going to be some effect there. Give them as much advance notice as we can as to what's going on, months, in case they're planning any larger events and things they can work on. Because I know the plan will be to keep everything open as much as possible, but for traffic and large events, we have Irish Times and Phil's and the other places along that area that, obviously will be impacted. So, maybe let's go out of our way to share, advance information with them so they can plan, it's a necessary improvement. It will be an improvement. But as much advance notice as we can give them all along there as well, like that we typically give to the residents, so. Other questions or comments from the board? So at this point, they're looking for a consensus to go ahead with the design engineering? There's no actual resolution or anything needed, so. And obviously Doug's, we have the funds available for this. Obviously, we hope for the contingency funding going forward, but if it doesn't, we're still ready to go with this. And, we see some of the controls and the things that we lose over in terms of the angled parking versus the other parking because we're getting this funding, but we couldn't do some of these projects without the funding. So they are collector routes, and it's too much money to turn down. And I think with the creativity that staff and Hancock came up with, we're, recouping the parking in another way, so. So is there a clear consensus from the board to have Derek go ahead with the design engineering?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Derek, appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm
Okay, that-
sorry, George screwed up my PowerPoint.
All right, that's the only item we have under regular business. I'll ask again, is there any public comment? Is there anyone on my right side that has any public comment? Hearing none, is there anybody on my left side that has any public comment? Okay, hearing no public comments, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by trustee Cote, second by trustee Kaluzny. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ketchmark?
Aye.
Trustee Cote?
Aye.
Trustee Hendricks?
Aye.
Trustee Conroy?
Aye.
Trustee Leclerc?
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're adjourned into executive session.